Before philosophy, I just want to shout out Lava and Abdullah and some random Browns fan. They all left some very nice comments on the last video, and just made me happy because it's cool to see that the video was meaningful, so I appreciate it. Alright, people, today we're talking about why it feels so good to make fun of other people. And I know that's a depressing topic, but I think it's an important thing to think about because I know everyone does it, and it's something you should try to work on and try to change. But at the same time, you got to recognize that it's a very natural human phenomenon. So it's something that you should not necessarily beat yourself up over, but you should try to recognize it in yourself and work towards improving it. I think making fun of another person, it's like a very primal form of happiness that you can achieve because at its core, I think you get a good feeling out of feeling that you're smarter than someone or better than someone. Um, because I think a basic evolutionary instinct is to be stronger than your opponents. So when you feel more powerful than somebody, then that's a good feeling because that means you're more likely to survive. So definitely, it has its roots, which is why I think it's such an instinctual tendency. But you know, as obviously things are more modern now, and so I think being able to decipher when you should give in to your instincts and not is extremely important. I think this is, I think a lot of times I can tell, I feel like this is something that creates a lot of division. I guess I'll get into an example so it's not so vague. Uh, but like the other day I was talking about, making fun of people in your class who are laughing at dumb jokes. And for me, like, I just get such a feeling like I feel like I do that just because I want to feel smart. Like being able to be like, oh man, like I would never laugh at a joke like that. Like I must be way smarter than them. I feel like that's what causes it because I don't know, it's such a good feeling to feel like you're above them or feel like you're smarter than them. And so I think your brain, kind of warps the facts to give you that opportunity to feel that way. And while it may be like your instinct to do that, I think if you let that happen, that's still on you. Even if it's your instinct, you gotta try to limit that as much as possible. And obviously, like it happens to me all the time. So it's something I have to constantly work on. It's not like you can just be like, oh, I'm just not gonna make fun of people anymore, or I'm not gonna do that anymore because since it's kind of an instinctual thing to do, then it's something it's going to keep happening. I don't know if you could ever train yourself to not think that way, but you can definitely train yourself to respond to that feeling in different ways. And so I think what you should be trying to do is, if you have those, I think it's impossible not to have those thoughts. I don't know, maybe it is, but at least for me, I've thought about this a lot, and I still have those thoughts no matter what. No matter how much I tell myself that, no, this is not the way to think. You should no matter how much I tell myself to change my way of thinking, you just can't. But what you can control is your response to it. And so I think if you're constantly like, you know what, no, I shouldn't get a good feeling out of this, then I think you can kind of train yourself to look for other ways of happiness. So maybe over time, I don't know, maybe over time you can remove the feeling. I don't know. Another good example is road rage because I think that's one of the most like clear like people just getting excessively angry. And I think most of the time it's just to make yourself feel better. And I notice kind of in all these situations, at least for me, my brain will naturally try to, you know, steer me away from that conclusion. Like, oh no, it's not. You're not trying to make yourself feel better. Like, they really are dumb. So example, like in road rage, if the car, does something kind of dumb, even if it's like no danger to you, just like a minor inconvenience, I feel like I don't know, something about being on the road like enhances it because I feel it too. Like you're way quicker to anger. Um, maybe because it's a little stressful already. You don't want to be put in danger, but I feel like it happens even when it's just like a minor inconvenience. You know, somebody like takes too long at the red light, or they don't put their turn signal on. Like I feel like it's for me like it's such a natural to be like, oh wow, what an idiot. Like they just they're they just must not be thinking. You know, they just must be dumb and like they don't care about anything. And I feel like your brain tries to twist it to make you think that, oh yeah, like that's why they're doing that. It's because they're dumb and I'm smart. And I just think that that's just ridiculous because I don't know. Everyone makes mistakes, and most people are probably not trying to intentionally, upset you when they're on the road. And uh, so yeah, I don't know. I feel like you just got to give people the benefit of the doubt. It's nice to give into that, feeling of feeling smarter than them. But yeah, I think the true action that you should take in your head is just give them the benefit of the doubt. I think I think that changes a lot because you have that feeling. You're like, oh man, this person's an idiot. But if you're able to stop for a second and think, oh, maybe there's something going on in their life that they're a little distracted right now, or they're they have somewhere important to be. I don't know. There's a million reasons, and I think if you just give them the benefit of the doubt, then that'll kind of remove that feeling of negativity. You know, I think while it might be impossible to prevent, uh, you know, the desire to feel smarter than somebody, I think taking the time to give someone the benefit of the doubt removes the negativity. And I think it's also, in the end, it's harder and it's, maybe not as simple of a route to happiness or a positive feeling. I think when you're able to remove that negativity, I think you do feel way more at peace. And I think it's much more rewarding to be able to say that um, you gave someone a chance. You thought about something, and you didn't just quickly judge somebody based on one small action that they did. Then there is also on the other extreme of this, I don't think it's necessary to try to you know like everybody and be ultra nice to everybody because there's gonna be people that you dislike. It's just it's just the way things are. People are gonna like things that you don't like, or they're gonna do things that you don't like, and they may annoy you or make you angry, and so it's not always your responsibility to force yourself to like everything and put a positive spin on everything. That's just being fake. Like if you're forcing yourself to like everybody and change the way you think about everything, then you're just that's really tiring because you're just you're putting on a facade all the time. Um, so there's obviously going to be some times where you just dislike somebody, but I think the main thing that you got to keep in mind is that doesn't give you a right to like hate them or think of them less as a person. I think if you dislike somebody, that's fine. You distance yourself from them. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to agree with them about things. But I don't think you should still be cordial and treat them like a human. You can make it clear. I mean, if they're I don't know. You don't have to be accommodating to everybody, but you shouldn't be like negative. You can be neutral. Like you can remain neutral, but I don't. There's no reason to be negative towards somebody just because you dislike them. And that also applies in the other way. Like if somebody dislikes you, they have a right to dislike you. Like there's nothing. I think that's a positive way to think. Also, like it's good for you to understand that not everyone's gonna like you because I think if you get upset for somebody disliking you, then you're taking it way too personally because there's obviously people that you dislike. I think probably everyone is going to have at least one person that they dislike, and that's just how it is. And so, you know, by that same logic, there's going to be at least one person who dislikes you. That's just how it is. And there's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It's just your personalities don't match. It happens. And so if somebody dislikes you, that there's nothing wrong with them. They just don't match with you. I mean, obviously, you know, if they're treating you poorly, that's a different thing. You know, you can stand up for you should stand up for yourself if you're not being treated well, but uh, if somebody dislikes you and they just don't agree with the things that you do or something, as long as as long as they don't treat you any differently, you know, as long as they still respect you as a person, you know, as a human, then you know, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, you know, there should be people that you dislike because, you know, if you have a strong set of, if you have a good idea of who you are and, you know, your ideals in life, then, you know, there's gonna be people who clash because everyone's different. Everyone has different ideals, and you know, that's an important quality of humans.